The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Subtle threats of blackmail, mysterious offers of protection, and the case of the missing house. No, you haven't stumbled across a lost episode of The Sopranos. I just read this stuff, folks. Hello, I'm James Curtis, and welcome to E's coverage of the Michael Jackson trial. The 46-year-old pop singer had no trouble passing through courthouse security yesterday, but once inside, he had to face yet another member of the current accuser's family. This time, it's Gavin's stepdad, a major in the United States Army Reserves. He claims that Jackson's handlers were drill sergeant tough with the family. We'll hear from Major Dad a little bit later on, but first we're going to pick up where we left off with you yesterday. That's with the cross-examination of the mother of an earlier accuser, the one from 1993. Here's what the jurors heard according to the courtroom transcripts.
When was the conversation where Michael got upset because he didn't think you trusted him?
In Las Vegas, in the hotel room.
Okay. You said to Michael, I've had males in my life that, have disappointed me. How can I have you in my life, and you're saying that you're going to take care of us, that you're so wonderful, everything's going to be okay. How am I going to do that?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to counsel reading from the document.
I haven't finished the question yet, Your Honor.
He's reading.
Well, all right. What is the question?
I was going to ask her if she made that statement.
All right, you may.
Did you make a statement to that effect?
Yes.
And Michael said to you, he wanted a family to just treat him like a regular person, right?
Correct.
He said he didn't want to be like a stranger, right?
Correct.
And he asked you to trust him, right?
Yeah.
Next, a token of affection or a golden handcuff.
Did there come a time when you were happy that Michael Jackson was around? Because your ex-husband, Evan, was spending time writing a screenplay and you were separated from David?
Correct.
Approximately when was that?
In the beginning, I was happy.
Okay, when did Michael go to Cartier and buy you that jewelry?
When we went to Las Vegas.
Was he with you when he did that?
No.
Did he do it on his own?
He did it with Jordy.
Okay, and did he come back and give it to you?
Yes.
Okay, now you described that to the Los Angeles District Attorney as a love bracelet, did you not?
Yes.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
What is a love bracelet?
It's a bracelet. That's a gold bracelet, and that's what it's called.
Okay. Had you ever told Michael Jackson you liked that kind of jewelry?
No.
Were you surprised when he bought it for you?
Yes.
Ricky Kleeman, we started out with his testimony yesterday. It sounded a little sinister, buying a Cartier bracelet. This context, though, provides us a little more amplitude about the defense theory.
Absolutely. I think that this is a situation where Michael is a gift giver and that Michael did want to please her, and it certainly sounds like this had little to do with his wanting to sleep with Jordan.
And the idea, Howard, of, and I want to talk about a general concept. I know you got a lot of issues with his testimony in general, but the general concept of the importance of the cross-examination is made definitely obvious. I mean, it's night and day when you hear these people on direct and you hear them on cross, isn't it?
Well, her direct examination, the inference is Michael bought her the gift to keep her quiet. And she must have known what's going on, I guess, is the theory. You must have known something was going on. You continue to let your child sleep with and be with Michael, and in exchange, you're willing to take the jewelry. The defense, obviously, just the opposite theory.
And you're right about the gift giver. In that Martin Bashir documentary, one of the things that stood out in my mind was Michael Jackson going, I think it was in Las Vegas, and buying a number of things.
That's a wild scene.
Yes. So this seems to be consistent with that. Another part of the Bashir documentary that we've seen.
Now, the idea, though, that this witness has been substantially undermined. She hasn't had contact with her son, although it wasn't that the son was taken away, but she hasn't talked to this kid in 11 years. That still has to loom large over this entire testimony.
But it speaks volumes in two ways. One, it could be the son never wanted to talk to her because she kind of put him in the position where he spent time with Michael, and therefore Michael was allowed to molest him, and she knew what was going on. Or he just doesn't like her because she's a taker. And
she's
used
25.
him to get things.
I mean, that's when he was 14.
Yes. Or another theory that I thought of is the reluctance of all of these 4 of the 5 prior bad act alleged victims. Is their reluctance an indication of, I don't really feel good about being part of this because maybe it didn't happen? Next, defense attorney Tom Mesereau challenges the witness about the timeline of the events in that 1993 settlements. Now, a program note, you're going to hear the name Gloria Allred, and although many of you may be familiar with her, she is a Los Angeles-based attorney.
And you contacted Department of Children's Services after first talking to a lawyer, true?
Not correct.
In fact, you personally never called the police department ever about anything involving Mr. Jackson, true?
True.
When did you first hire Gloria Allred?
After we spoke to the district attorney.
When did you first hire Larry Feldman?
After the police were notified, Department of Children's Services and Lauren Weiss, the district attorney.
Your strategy was to negotiate a settlement before ever contacting law enforcement, true?
No strategy, sorry.
And one of the levers you were trying to hang over Mr. Jackson was bad publicity if he didn't pay, right?
Incorrect.
Next was Michael Jackson's relationship with the 1993 accuser squeaky clean. That's what District Attorney Tom Sneddon wants to know on this redirect examination.
Mr. Mesereau asked you about your son Jordan and about some of the things you may or may not have seen with regard to taking showers. And I want to ask you a few questions about that, okay?
Yes.
During the time that you stayed at Neverland Valley Ranch and your son slept in Mr. Jackson's room, okay? Did you ever see your son come back to the guest cottages to take showers?
No.
During the time that your son was in Monaco and stayed in Mr. Jackson's room for several days in a row, did you ever see your son come back to take showers in your room?
No.
During the time that you were in Florida and Mr. Jackson and your son spent time together and he was sleeping in Mr. Jackson's room, did you ever see your son come back to your room and take showers or to clean up?
No.
Howard Weitzman, this helps the prosecution?
Yes.
How?
It does, because the theory is if he wasn't coming back to their room and taking showers, he was taking showers with Michael Jackson, and I actually think it's a pretty good examination for the
See, I
prosecution.
disagree. I think it should be on the defense side, because on this particular case, we're going to say, Mom, you didn't think there was anything going on with your son and Michael Jackson because you let him sleep in Michael's room. Mom, because you let him take showers in Michael's room. And if you thought there was something going on, you would have swept him away from Michael's room.
And it doesn't mean that they were taking showers together.
Well, it doesn't. I
Very
think the
good.
inference has to be, though. I mean, let's be real, folks. Let's
That is
harken
the
back
inference.
to, certainly, but let's harken back to a teenage, preteen kid. I can remember not liking to take showers, period. I got a little boy. They're not really fond of water in the first place. The idea that they're not taking
No,
showers.
I don't get it that
Come
way, though.
on.
I don't get it that way. I mean, I think that really what Sneddon is trying to say is he was being molested in the shower on a continuous
Sure, that's what
basis
he's
in Michael's
trying to
room.
say.
But the problem with it is, who is this woman? What kind of mother is she?
Not only that, but that's what he's trying to say. But my point is simply this. It doesn't really prove anything. I sound like Howard now. I apologize. Please forgive me. That he's not taking showers, period.
No.
Teenage boys, especially young ones, water's not a big high on their list. I'm just telling you that, all right?
I just don't agree with it. The inference here is that he's taking showers with Michael. It doesn't matter what she thinks, because then you go back to what the housekeeper
Right.
said.
We keep
That's the
hearing about
picture he's
showers.
trying
Yes,
to
oh,
paint.
sure.
It's
Oh,
showers.
absolutely. And it
It's all about
ties into
showers.
that. But as Howard said last week, I believe it was, again, all this, although that conduct may be distasteful, that in and of itself is not illegal, Sean.
Right. It's not illegal, but of course the prosecution's just trying to hit us again with this theme of showers. We remember the underwear outside the
Sure.
shower. So it just keeps coming back, resonating, they hope, in the minds of the jurors.
And I think it will resonate. I think that once you get this image here, it's hard to, separate whether or not we're talking about illegal activity or just activity that you can, in your mind, think is really, really bad. When we return, the major marches to the stand and launches a war of words. Stay with us.
The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. Our next witness is the current accuser's stepdad. He's also a major in the United States Army Reserves. Under questioning by Assistant District Attorney Ron Zonin, he describes in detail how Frank Tyson, he's one of the unindicted co-conspirators in this case, hounded the accuser's mother, Janet. Now, a program note, you're going to hear a couple of names, Ronald Conitzer and Dieter Weisner. They're associates of Michael Jackson. Here's what the jurors heard according to the courtroom transcripts.
Can you tell us how many phone calls were coming from Frank during the time that Janet was staying at your house after her first return from Neverland?
She was receiving phone calls continuously.
What does that mean, continuously?
every 15 to 20 to 30 minutes.
Throughout the day?
Yes, sir.
Were they always from Frank?
They seem to be from Frank.
Were you able to hear any portion of the conversation?
Janet was
Objection, hearsay.
somewhat emotional.
Non-responsive, sustained.
Were you able to hear any portion of the conversation? Yes or no?
Yes,
All right. Do you know if those conversations went on for long periods of time?
they did.
Without getting into the content of her end of the conversation, tell us what her mood was like, what her manner or her demeanor was like.
She was emotional. She was crying. And she was sitting in the closet having these conversations with Frank. And I mean, I can tell you what I heard, but
Let's not go into that at the moment. You said she was sitting in the closet.
she was. It's a long closet in the bedroom, back in the back of the room. She would sit in the closet. She was very distressed.
All right.
She was crying.
Were you able to hear her end of the conversation?
I only heard bits and pieces, but yes, sir.
What could you hear her saying?
She had that.
Objection, hearsay.
As to her state of mind?
Same objection.
Let's see. She's... All right. I'll overrule the objection and allow her statement in for her state of mind.
What did you hear her comments?
I heard her comments that she was very disturbed about two gentlemen's treatment of her. One being a gentleman named Ronald, and another being a gentleman by the name of Dieter.
Did she, in fact, return back to Neverland?
She did, sir.
Next, a veiled threat or just one of those typically nasty Hollywood negotiations.
Did you have a conversation with Frank about payment for this video?
Yes, sir.
What did you say to him?
Well, after I asked him to send the contract to me by email, and he kind of changed the subject. I asked him, what are you offering this family to do this? I'd seen on TV that they were making money on this video, and I felt that they were taking advantage of this family. So I said, what are you offering them? He said, well, we're offering them protection. And that struck me.
Objection, non-responsive.
And I believe that statement.
And hearsay.
That's overruled.
He said something to you about protection.
Yes, sir, he did.
What did he tell you about offering the family protection?
He said he was offering the family protection. And I says, Frank, the family doesn't need any protection. Who are you protecting them against?
Did he answer that question?
He did not. He moved on to the next point.
At any point in time during this conversation, did he tell you who the family needed protection from?
No, sir, he did not.
Did he tell you what kind of danger the family was in?
No, sir, he did not.
Did he tell you who were posing threats to the family?
No, sir.
And did you ask him those questions?
I did.
Sean Chapman Holly, aside from the substance of this testimony, which we're going to get into, the threats, the money, doesn't the prosecution have to connect this conduct by Frank Tyson to Michael Jackson? It's not connected here, is it?
Yes, this is all very confusing to me, and I have a real problem with this. It seems to me that a lot of these questions assume facts, not in evidence. My initial thought about protection is now there's this media attention to this family, and it's protection perhaps against the media. And these questions, did he tell you what kind of danger the family was in? Well, there's no testimony that it's danger or that who's posing threats to the family. I'm sure there's a good reason why Mesereau's allowing this, because he's a great attorney, but it's just a sinister inference that I don't think needs to go here.
Ricky?
Well, I think that one of the issues for this particular witness in the prosecution to prop him up is he is a major. We're hearing him called major. It's the way he looks, assuming that our actor really does in some way resemble the way he appears in court, and how he has this aura of authority. So when he does say something like Sean is talking about, there is this inference of danger, and we start to worry about the family, and that's bad for the defense.
It's bad for the defense, but we can't forget, at least I can't forget, Tom Mesereau's rather pointed opening with respect to having access to a major in the United States Army Reserves, yet he doesn't get called for help. Next, the negotiation over payment for the video gets a little uglier, folks.
Did Frank offer you or Janet or her children anything in exchange for this video?
He said he was going to offer a college education and a house. Well, they didn't need a house, and they're in 8th grade. They didn't need a college education.
Objection. Move to strike.
The last sentence is stricken. Let me...
What did you say to Frank in response to that offer?
I said, that's fine, Frank. What are you offering them monetarily? I was very suspicious of him at this point.
Objection, non-responsive. Move to strike.
That last remark is stricken. And the last answer, I'm striking the last 3 sentences, not the last one sentence.
All right. He had made you an offer of a house.
Yes, sir.
All right. And you said no.
Basically said no.
Okay. Did you ask him for any monetary payment in exchange for that video?
I asked him what he was offering financially or monetarily.
And did he answer to that specific question?
No, sir, he did not.
Did he tell you whether or not they were going to be paid?
No, he actually said, "Are you trying to blackmail us?"
Had you made any demands from him?
No, sir.
Were you personally familiar with any information that could be used for blackmail?
No, sir.
What did you tell him when he said that?
Why are you saying that? That makes no sense. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about here.
Or does it? Now, Assistant District Attorney Ron Zonin shifts his questioning back to how the young accuser seemed to be affected by his relationship with the superstar.
Was Gavin behaving differently than he had been prior to the early part of February when they went to Miami?
Yes, he was.
In what way was he behaving differently at this point?
Again, he was acting very cocky. He kind of rude, actually.
Did he greet you at all when he saw you?
I don't think he wanted to see me. I don't think that he was very surprised when he saw me there. And he may have greeted me, but he's certainly not a loving. It was almost like, "What are you doing here?"
Your relationship with him prior to Miami, how would you describe that relationship?
Father-like.
You had a good relationship with him.
Very good relationship.
How would you contrast Gavin's behavior at that time as against his behavior prior to the Miami trip?
Objection, improper opinion, vague.
Overruled, you may answer.
Go ahead.
Night and day. It appeared to me he'd been brainwashed in some way.
Objection.
Just tell us what his behavior was.
He was vague. He was angry.
Objection.
Just a moment. Just a moment.
Yes, sir.
The last response is stricken. The jury's admonished to disregard it. Ask him another question.
Howard Weitzman, we have a couple issues on the table. I want to hear your take on this issue of threat that we heard in the previous testimony. And this testimony seems to be consistent with respect to the mood change, Davlin's testimony that we heard earlier.
Listen, the judge has opened the door. The prosecution has established through this witness that there were threats, at least in his mind and in his girlfriend's mind at the time, to them, that they should stay away from trying to take Gavin away from Michael. Right. Gavin clearly wants to be with Michael. I can't understand why. I mean, he gets time at the ranch, and he gets gifts and toys and things like that. I don't know why he'd rather be with Michael
of molestation in and of itself?
No, it has nothing to do with molestation, in my opinion.
Why not, though?
It just paints...
Because we got this expert testimony saying, hey, kids' moods change when they've been assaulted sexually.
James, what it establishes is that Michael has the ability to put his arms, no pun intended, around these kids and bring them to him so that he can entertain them and they can be friends and play like kids. That's what this really establishes.
All right, and we know that kids around that age sometimes just don't want to be bothered with their folks sometimes, especially when they're having big fun elsewhere. When we return, it's round one of Tom Mesereau versus Major Dad. Stay with us.
The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. On cross-examination of the accuser's stepdad, defense attorney Tom Mesereau attacks, but the Reserve Army major doesn't appear to retreat all that quickly. Here's what happened, according to the courtroom transcripts.
Now, at one point, you indicated that you spoke to Frank Tyson and wanted to know what the family was going to get out of the rebuttal video, right?
Yes, sir.
And you actually mentioned at one point to Tyson that you were making millions out of this. What is this family going to get, right?
In essence, I did say that.
And I believe you said that Mr. Tyson offered a house and a college education. Is that correct?
First, he offered protection. Then he said he was going to offer a tutor. Then he was going to offer a house and a college education.
And you, in effect, said to Mr. Tyson, that's not enough, right?
That would be incorrect.
First, you said, you guys are making millions and this family's not getting anything, right?
Are you asking me the question now to answer?
Yes.
Okay. I said basically that. I understand that they're making $4 to $5 million on this documentary. In my perception, that you should compensate this family for helping out in this video.
And at the end of that conversation, you, in effect, communicated to Frank a house is not enough, right?
That was not the way it came across. No, sir.
Okay. Did you accept the house?
I still don't have it. No. I don't see the house yet.
Are you still looking for it?
I'm not even looking for it.
Mesro having a little fun. They got time to wrap it up. Sean Chapman-Hawley.
I guess the point of this witness is simply to establish the false imprisonment claim. But as you said earlier, this really has nothing to do with Michael Jackson. These other people, unindicted co-conspirators, but what did Michael Jackson do?
Okay, this witness establishes the dominating personalities of Michael and his aides. It shows how they can try to control everything around them, including getting this family to participate in the video.
And from the defense point of view, what Tom Mesro's doing is brilliant. We have a grifter mom who had a grifter husband who now has a grifter boyfriend, and everybody's looking to Michael to be the mark.
It does, and it impresses me that the offer of education seems to be a rather benign, egalitarian offer. We'll send your kids to college, we'll help them out. And his response, although it was stricken, is, hey, they're only in 8th grade.
Show me the money.
Show me the money right now. Doesn't look good for this guy, does it?
No. But the offer, again, by Sneddon, is to show the control factor, that Michael and his aides controlled this family and these kids, the false imprisonment, and making them participate in the video.
But, Sean, still, you don't have that connection yet between this conduct and Michael Jackson's direction.
That's right. We haven't heard anything about Michael Jackson.
All right, well, we'll see how it goes as we keep on going down this road. Watch our exclusive coverage, the Michael Jackson trial coverage, of course, every night, 7:30 p.m., right here on E! Oh, and one other thing. No, we don't have time for that. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.